Alright, hello and welcome everybody to the third ritual meditation in the Wheel of Revolutions cycle. This one is called the Rite of Tributaries. So, for everyone who wasn't here for the first two rituals, this one is standalone. They're all designed to kind of flow together over the course of a year. It's a series of currently 9 ritual meditations. The usual 8 that's taking inspiration from the popularized Gardenian Wheel of the Year. And there's also an extra one that I have put into my wheel for, well, you'll see. Stick around until autumn and you'll see what that one's all about. So when we think of tributaries, we're of course thinking of rivers. A tributary is a smaller river, one of probably many smaller rivers, flowing off of a much larger major river. In this ritual, what we're using that as a metaphor for is the flow of life. As I'm sure everybody here is aware, including my cat, who's trying very hard to get in my lap right now, all living things on the planet Earth that we currently know of need water, need moisture. As for how much water and how often, that varies, of course, from species to species. But we all need it to some extent. So, the flow of water on the planet also is the flow of life on the planet. And today we are going to be thinking about and mapping out our tributaries in our local areas. So this one's going to be a little bit different from the first two in that while I am going to lead us all into a meditative state, it is not going to be as deep of a meditation as the previous rituals, in that I want you to stay focused on the present. And while you can visualize the things that I'm going to be talking about with you, you can also choose to take a more tactile approach. So if you want to get a notebook, or if you want to draw, or do some kind of other physical activity while you listen to map out these things, I invite you to do so. I think that's a wonderful way to keep those things in your memory after the rite is over. If you're listening to this later on YouTube, you might have already noticed this, but I do record these live, so I apologize in advance if there are any small interruptions, stuttering, changes to my volume. I do record these with several cats in the room that love to make my life difficult, specifically when I'm trying to do something important. So I apologize for any of that. Later on, I may transition to doing these pre-recorded or get a little better at editing so that I can edit some of that stuff out. But as of right now, I do these live with my coven, and it comes with all of the little tribulations that you might have from a live recording. I'm hoping that you're going to enjoy the experience anyway, and with that said, let's go ahead and get right into it. I would like everybody to go ahead and get comfortable in your space. Try to eliminate as many distractions as you can. We all know that sometimes it's not possible to do it all the way, but get as comfy as you can, as quiet as you can. If you need to, if you're watching later, pause the video while you do so. I won't be mad. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a few deep breaths to get us into that meditative state. If you are one of the people for whom breathing exercises don't work too well, or if you can't keep up with my pacing because of lung capacity issues, I invite you to do some alternative method that works for you. So that may be a rhythmic tapping. It could be circling the palm of your hand with your opposite thumb, focusing on the tick of the clock in your room, Anything that gives you that nice, slow, steady rhythm over the course of the next minute or so that's going to bring you down into a more comfortable state. So let's go ahead and get ready. I want everyone to start by taking a nice deep breath in. Hold that breath for a few seconds. And breathe out. Take another deep breath in. Hold it. And breathe out. One more deep breath in. Hold it. Breathe out. One last time. Number 4, breathe in. Hold it and then breathe out. Now you can go ahead and keep your eyes closed and follow along in your mind. Or if you like, open your eyes, get your notebooks, and let's think about tributaries. The first thing that I want you to think about is where your water comes from. The water that goes through your pipes, the water that comes up in your wells if you have one, the water that everyone drinks and bathes in and washes in. Where does your community's water come from? Now, most of us do know the answer to this question, but some of us might not, and that's okay. Not everybody has been living in their area very long. Not everybody has been paying attention. That's why I'm inviting you to think about it now. You might have a local lake. You may have a dammed river. You may have underground reservoirs that you draw your water from. You may have any number of these things, or you may have your water pumped in from a neighboring area if you happen to live in a desert. Anyway, think about that water. Think about the journey that it takes to get from where it settles to you. And think about all of the places that it has to touch on its way to you. How healthy is that water? Depending on where you live, the answer might be very simple, very complicated. It may make you very angry, or it might not. Think about what could be done to keep that water healthy, to keep it flowing, to make it more accessible. The next thing that I want you to think about is frogs. Now, bear with me for a moment here because you might be going, what? I want you to think about frogs, or toads, or newts, salamanders, whatever kind of amphibian is most common in the area where you live. And I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time that you saw one of those amphibians? When was the last time that you saw a frog? Amphibians are a very good indicator of the health of an ecosystem because they are so sensitive. So when we start seeing less and less of our frogs, that is an alarm bell that there's something wrong with our systems, and in particular, things that are wrong with our waters. So when I tell you to think about the last time you saw a frog, what I'm really asking you is, when you look at your water, and you look at the creatures that are most intimately dependent on those water sources, without having access to any of the filtration or treatment plants that we humans have, how healthy are they? Could you say that they're thriving? Do you have many frogs and toads? Or a startlingly few compared to what you think you should? Think about how those numbers might be different this year than it has been in previous years. The next thing I want all of you to think of is something that you probably think about all the time, but not necessarily in a good way. I want you to think about bugs. We humans, we don't like bugs very much, but our little amphibian friends love them, or at least love to eat them. We're getting into late spring now, so we're starting to see our usual number of insects for the year. So now is a wonderful time to think about, is something different this year? Are there more mosquitoes? Are there fewer? Particularly the bugs that you're used to seeing by the water, are they there? Are they there in the numbers that you would expect them to be there? Or are there less or more? If this year is different, think about why. Is there perhaps more standing water this year? If you live where I live, the answer is definitely yes. Have the rivers dried up further? Have they risen from their banks? Are there more or less fish to feed on the larvae in the water itself? By now you're probably understanding what I'm going for here, and it's that all of these creatures, including ourselves, are connected by the water. As the water in our rivers flows from its source and spreads out through all of the tributaries all across the land, flow down into our reservoirs, into our lakes, all the way to the ocean. That water touches nearly every single bit of life all across the land. All of our animals, all of our plants, all of our annoying bugs, all of our trees, all of these things are very closely interconnected. Now, most of you probably already knew that. But I think it stands to reason that sometimes we just need to stop and really think about these things, because knowing that something is true isn't necessarily the same as keeping it in your mind and working to keep the balance within it. We may know many things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're actively ready to do something about it. one of the overarching themes of the Wheel of Revolutions is keeping watch over the very delicate balances that govern every aspect of our lives. The balance between life and death, balance between nature and civilization, the balance between taking what we need from our environment and taking too much and sending everything off course. We can't always do as much as we would like to do when it comes to taking care of our local ecology. There's always that money factor that keeps a lot of us from being able to, for example, garden the way we want to, own land the way we want to, take care of land the way we want to. But as we sit here and we think about our rivers and our tributaries and our frogs and our bugs and trees and wildlife, I would challenge you to consider what things you can do with whatever resources you have. For example, we may not all be able to own property, but a lot of us do have windows. And a lot of us could afford maybe a little planter to set in those windows with a few very simple plants, like even dandelions, things that we call weeds, clovers, to help feed the local bees, the local pollinators. A little bag of oats or simple nuts goes a long way to help out birds and squirrels and other animals that would have, if not for our civilization, had access to the fields that we live on for foraging. There are all kinds of little things that we can do to stay in balance. Something else that we can do that thankfully often costs very little money is that we can use our voices. Right now, in your community, I guarantee you that there is at least one initiative out there that is trying to correct something that is unbalanced in your local ecology. Depending on where you live, that may look like many different things. It may look like an effort to clean up trash on the beach. It may be a campaign to remove a dam that is stopping the flow of the river. It may look like one of the many campaigns for cleaner water. If you're lucky enough to live somewhere that has a robust park system, you may find that they have need for volunteers for any number of things around the parks. Help clean up, help run camps or educational seminars. Sometimes you can even find a job helping them count frogs. We don't each individually have a lot of power over these things, and it can be incredibly frustrating. But we all have a little bit of power. And I would like you to think about the ways you're going to use that. And if it helps, go ahead and imagine again that pathway that the river takes, that the water takes. At what point along that journey could you interact with that water and do something good for it? And if not the water itself, what about the creatures that rely on it? Imagine what the world could look like if we all took 10, 15 minutes out of our week to just think about the water. Just think about our frogs. If you're journaling with me tonight, I want you to take a look at the notes that you've made over the course of me talking here. Let me know if you've learned something. And if it suits you, I'd like you to keep those notes. Take a look at them from time to time and just think. The modern world is full of distractions. We've all got tons of TV shows, movies, news items, celebrities, lots of things to distract us. It can be hard to remember to just stop for a moment and take stock of the world around us. But doing that is something that I find to be very important, not just to the outer world's balance, but also to our own inner balance. Being aware of our surroundings, being aware of what's happening around us, what our environment looks like outside of our jobs and homes and the stores that we frequent. I believe that that is a necessary step to finding ways to make the world a better place for everyone and every creature. And that is what the Rite of Tributaries is about. It's about looking at the world around us and finding all of the little connections that keep our rivers flowing, that keeps the flow of life flowing to its beginnings and its endings and its beginnings over again every year for as long as our Earth exists. And who knows, maybe even beyond it. We'll know when we get there. And the next time you see a little frog, or toad, or newt, remember this rite, and remember, stop and take a closer look. The world has a lot for us to learn. That is the end of our meditation tonight, though hopefully not the end of our learning. If you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're one of my lovely coven members that is subscribed to my channel, I have a section right at the bottom of recommended channels that I love. An awful lot of those channels are environmental biologists, ecologists, paleontologists, historians, a lot of good people who have a lot of good things to say about ways that we can understand this world a little bit better so that we can help it a little bit better. In the coming days, challenge yourself. Learn something that you've never had a chance to learn before. It's not as hard as it used to be. And with that, let's go ahead and put our notebooks down. Close our eyes again. And let's bring ourselves back out of our little state here. Whether you breathe or tap, or twirl, or listen to the clock or the music in the background, follow along with me. Let's take one deep breath in. Hold it for a moment. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Once more, breathe in. And breathe out. Last time. Breathe in. And breathe out. And open your eyes. Take a moment to shake out. Settle back into your body. Thank you for joining me tonight. I hope I've given you something to think about. And I hope you enjoyed thinking about frogs. Bet you didn't expect that. Hope you guys will continue to join me for more Wheel of Revolutions. Our next ritual will be coming in about a month and a half. That one is called the Rite of the Serpent. So we're going from frogs to serpents. Thanks for being with me here tonight. I'll see you all next time.